Well, hello, all my amazingly beautiful zodiac family and friends. My name is Libra Empress, and this is another episode of Terror and Tarot with Libra Empress. Today we are going to be watching 3 pizza delivery horror stories animated by IMR Scary Tales. Without further ado, let's get started.
Have you ever felt like this is probably the time where you are going to die? If you haven't, you are so damn lucky. This incident happened last week. The trauma of this incident is so fresh that I am still having a rough time recovering from it. I work in a pizza shop. My job includes taking orders and delivering them to customers at night. I have always worked the night shift and never faced any issues until now. Last week, I was standing near the counter when our shop's phone rang. I picked up and said, "Cheese man, can I take your order?" A man with a really grumpy and rough voice replied, "That's what I called, jackass." I felt a bit insulted by his behavior, but kept it to myself. The man ordered 2 large pizzas and gave an address of a house residing in the outskirts of the town. I told the chef to prepare the order. I checked the address using my GPS and realized it's going to be a 20-minute drive. I stacked the boxes on the front seat of the car and started for the destination. I was driving amidst the small townships. It was 10 p.m. at night, so the streets were completely empty. The yellow streetlights created a spooky atmosphere all around. I saw a house at the end of the street and realized this is the location. I parked my car near the house and got out. The house looked quite abandoned to me, as if people hardly lived there. But I saw the lights in the room upstairs. I walked to the main door and knocked. I could hear a whispering sound coming out of the house. No one opened the door, so I knocked again. This time, I heard footsteps. It felt like someone is coming down the stairs and walking towards the main door. The door opened after a few seconds. An angry-looking man with a rough bearded face stood in the doorway. His eyes were slightly red and he was smelling of whiskey. The man said in a rough voice, "What do you want?" Hearing his voice, I realized this is the same guy who insulted me on the phone. I said in a calm but firm voice, "Your pizza's here," and handed him the boxes. The man checked me out from head to toe and then paid me the money, saying, "You can go now," and slammed the door hard on my face. I thought to myself, what an asshole. This guy is surely fucking drunk with no sense of manners. I got back to the car and was just about to start the engine when a sound came to my ears. The sound was so mellow that it took me a bit of time to figure out what it was. As I tried to listen closely, I figured out it was a sobbing sound of a little girl. I looked around, but there wasn't anyone. It was only me inside my car under a streetlight. I listened for a few seconds more and realized the crying sound was coming from the house where I just delivered the pizzas. It would have been possible that the drunk asshole had a little daughter and it was a matter of their personal life. But there was something in the cry of this little girl that kept pleading me not to leave. I slowly came out of the car and tiptoed to the house. I got close to the main door and tried to listen to the sounds coming from the house. The little girl was continuously sobbing, but I heard 2 more sounds this time. I heard 2 men talking in a really low voice, but their talking mode was so rough that I could hear almost everything they were speaking. The grumpy drunk who opened the door was saying to another man, "I told you to tie her mouth tightly." The other man replied, "I did, but she won't stop sobbing. Not everything is my fault, Brute." I said to myself, "So this asshole's name is Brute?" Brute replied in an angry voice, "I shouldn't have made you a partner in the first place. Can't even keep a 10-year-old girl quiet, jackass." They got into an argument with each other and started to use really obscene language. The girl's cry got louder. There was a small window on the house porch. I slowly peeked inside from the window, and what I saw scared the hell out of me. A little girl was lying on a dusty mattress on the floor. Her hands and legs were tied. Her mouth has been taped too. Her wide eyes looked fucking terrified. I could tell from her expression that she was in danger. The 2 men were sitting on the porch arguing. One was Brute the drunk guy, and the other was a bony, creeping-looking guy sitting right next to him. The entire scenario became crystal clear to me. I realize they are professional kidnappers and have abducted this little girl. This house is probably an abandoned house, which is why they chose this place to keep the girl. To be honest, I was really nervous at the beginning and thought to leave the place and inform the cops about it. I thought it would be better if the cops handled this matter. But then, I again looked at this little girl and realized how dangerous it would be if I just leave her here like this. Don't know what these two bastards will do to her, or what if they take her to some other place, or worse, kill her for ransom. With various thoughts going on in my head, I decided to take one step at a time, because there was no way I was leaving this little girl to die at the hands of these criminals. I made no sound and got to my car. I got inside it and called 911. I reported the entire situation very cautiously so that the kidnappers couldn't hear me. The nearest police station was about 20 minutes away from that area. They told me to keep my eyes open and they will be here as soon as they can. Even though I knew the cops were on their way, I couldn't just sit in the car and wait. I got out and started to walk towards the back side of the house. As I reached the back door, I saw those two men going upstairs. The little girl was lying on the ground like before. I said to myself, "Matthew, this is your only chance." Luckily, the back door of the house had a small entrance for dogs and cats. I put my hand through it and twisted the doorknob slowly. The door opened. I paused and listened carefully. Those men were still upstairs arguing. I tiptoed to the living room and reached towards the little girl. I turned her over and she started to panic at first. I shushed her by gesturing a finger on my lips and said in a whispering voice, "I am here to help you. The cops are on their way." She nodded her head. I stood up, started to untie her. She was sobbing like before. I understood this girl is extremely traumatized from what she is going through right now. Suddenly, I heard footsteps and I started to hurry up. I was almost done when I heard a thunder-striking voice from the stairs. "Hey, who the hell are you? What are you doing, you bastard?" I looked back and saw Brute was standing on the stairs. His face seemed like the hound from hell. He was breathing like a hungry wolf. I immediately took the little girl on my lap and started to run towards the door. Brute took out a huge knife and chased me. I was just close to the exit when he stabbed me on my leg. I screamed in pain because I knew he stabbed me deeply, but I didn't stop. The little girl started crying and screaming in fear, seeing blood coming out of my leg. I grabbed her tightly to my chest and ran as fast as I could. I got on the streets. I already said the streets were empty, and the next house was at 1 to 2 kilometers distance from this one. I knew I wouldn't make it that far because I turned around and saw those two criminals chasing me with sharp knives in their hands. I was just praying to God, "Please make the cops reach here before they get us." I could hear them saying, "Stop! I will kill you, you son of a bitch! Stop! Right now!" My leg was about to give up, and I realized that I should have gotten into the car. But I don't know if I could have driven it safely or not. While every hope of coming out of this alive with this little girl in my arms was dying in front of my eyes, I saw a flash of red and blue lights heading towards us. The cops' car's siren made me heave a sigh of relief. I turned back and saw Brute and that bony guy now running backward. I was sure that they have seen the cops and are trying to escape now. I stumbled on the ground and a lady cop came rushing towards me. As soon as she took the little girl from my arms, I lost my senses. I had to stay in the hospital for a week. The cops managed to reunite the girl with her parents and have arrested Brute and his partner. Doctors say I might have to limp while walking for the rest of my life, but when that little girl visited me in the hospital, her smile and the tears of joy on her parents' face made all my pain worth it. I am happy that I could save a little child's life on that night of pizza delivery. This happened when I first moved out. I rented a small place and started working as a pizza delivery guy. It was a local shop. The work pressure was moderate throughout the weekdays, but during weekends, we hardly had time to relax. I generally did day shifts, but due to the bulk of orders, I had to do night shifts on weekends too. I was quite happy to do night shifts, being honest. It gave me a lot of time to relax during the day, and also, people got paid good tips on night orders on weekends. Our boss provided us 3 bikes and 1 car to go for the deliveries. The car was especially for night shifts because driving through the empty highways amidst the woods at night It's quite unsafe on a two-wheeler. It was a Saturday night. I got 3 deliveries back to back. The first 2 deliveries were close, but the last one was on the outskirt of the town. After 5 minutes of driving the town, I drove onto a dusty road. The GPS tracker showed me the way. I was driving amidst the dense forest. My car headlights were the only light around me. I could hear the owls hooting and the crickets chirping in the distance. After continuing like this for a while, my GPS tracker showed me a turn on my left. As I reached near the turn, I noticed a dark road going that way. Without GPS, I would have surely missed this turn. It was 11 p.m. when I finally reached the location. A sketchy-looking wooden house stood in front of me. I got out of my car, holding the pizza box in one hand and my phone in the other. The house was in complete darkness. I walked to the main door and rang the doorbell. The porch light lit up above my head. I felt a bit relieved that someone is inside. I was standing there, waiting for the door to open, just when a woman spoke from the inside. "Who is it?" I said in an awkward tone. Ma'am, it's me, the pizza delivery guy." A few moments went in silence. The door half opened. A terrified-looking partial face peeked from the darkness. It was a woman. I could only see her one wide eye. She then said, "Oh, it's really you." I smiled awkwardly and said, "Yes, ma'am. Here's your order." She opened the door and took the pizza box from my hand. I have been to many houses and have seen lots of creepy owners, but this woman was literally making my skin crawl. She then said, "I will have to go upstairs and bring the money. Till then, if you want, you can wait inside." She then started to walk upstairs. It was a bit chilly outside, so I entered the living room and decided to wait there. The living room was very untidy. Dirty clothes were lying in a corner. I don't know why, but a rancid smell was floating all over the room. Another thing that caught my eye was the woman's wedding photos. Even though the house was super messy and unclean, the photographs were in good shape, as if someone cleaned them recently. There were 4 to 5 photos in the living room. The one big photo of her wedding hung on the wall right in front of me. It was a really big frame. The woman was standing beside a lean, pale-looking man. She was smiling really big, as in ear to ear. To some extent, the photo felt very unusual. Especially, that man's face didn't seem at all happy to me. Anyways, prying in our customer's life is a strict no-no for us, so I stopped thinking all this shit. I was becoming impatient as this woman was taking really long. This was the last delivery of the night, so I wanted to get the payment and the fuck out of here as soon as possible. I said in a loud voice, "Ma'am, where are you? It's getting late now. Can you please hurry up? I have a long drive home." The woman didn't respond, but after a few seconds more, I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. As I looked up, I saw the woman coming down with that ear-to-ear smile on her face like that photograph. I didn't notice all this time that she was actually wearing her wedding dress. The dress is completely torn out and dusty. It was in such a bad shape that no one can spot it without seeing her wedding photos. She looked at me and said in a scary voice, "Don't I look beautiful in my wedding dress?" Now, I got hella awkward and replied, "Ma'am, please make the payment so I can leave. It's getting very late now." She raised her skinny pale hand towards me and said, "Take it." As I reached to take the money from her hand, she dropped the cash on the floor. I thought it was an honest mistake, so I got down to pick it up from the floor. While I was picking up the money, my eyes went to the couch, kept in the middle of the living room. My blood froze then and there. I didn't know what to say because I saw a dead body lying under the couch. The dead body had started to rot, which clarified the rancid smell all over the house. I could identify the body in a wink. This is the mistress of the house. She opened the door and a few seconds ago let me in. But if she is dead, then who is standing in front of me right now? I slowly looked up and saw the woman standing and leaning on my face. Her eyes were gushing out. Her smile made me feel like I've been drowned in the darkest darkness. She laughed and said in a demonic voice, "Don't I look beautiful in my wedding dress?" I screamed at the top of my lungs and ran for my life. After getting out of the house, I looked back once. Only once. The woman was still standing at the doorway. She was laughing like a creature from hell. Her laugh was echoing all around the woods. I started the car with trembling hands and drove as fast as possible. I went straight home that night. The next morning, I called my boss and told him this entire thing. He laughed at me at first and said I might have been hallucinating. But then, I went to the cops and told them to check this house. Everyone was obviously mocking me at the beginning. When we all got into the house, they all got shocked and terrified, just like me. The cops discovered the woman's dead body underneath the couch. She was lying there dead for at least 2 to 3 days. I told the cop that she was the one who opened the door, and I didn't at all hallucinate the entire incident. But the horror didn't just stop there. After searching the entire house, the cops found another dead body. They found a dried corpse tied up to a chair in the basement. It was a man's corpse. Someone starved him to death. The cops investigated the entire matter, and the story unfolded, scaring the hell out of all of us. The man and the woman were living in the house. The woman was very suspicious in her married life. She drove her husband crazy whenever he used to go outside. One day, the husband got paranoid about his wife and decided to leave her. The wife somehow managed to drug him in his sleep and then tied him to a chair so that he could never leave her. But during this process, she tortured her husband, which eventually led to his death. The woman turned into a lunatic after her husband died, and she too committed suicide. I have stopped working as a delivery guy at night. Even though it was the most horrifying incident of my life, I still find it really uncomfortable that the woman's spirit found me to make her story heard. I'm not a judgmental person, but this one encounter has scarred me for life. I am Selena. I work in a restaurant. I share an apartment with a colleague of mine. Her name is Tina. Tina and I both met at work. Fortunately, we were both looking for a place and it was helpful to split the rent. Working at a restaurant can be hectic sometimes. After long, tiresome days, none of us had the energy to cook dinner or even go out for it. So we used to order food whenever we felt this way. One night, after coming from work, Tina and I decided to order pizza. There was a local pizza shop at 15 to 20 minutes distance from our house. The shop has opened recently, so Tina and I both decided to try pizza from there. I called the shop and placed our order. We started to prepare for a movie night. After half an hour, our doorbell rang. I rushed to the door because I was feeling really hungry. As I opened the door, I saw a pizza delivery guy standing outside. He was wearing the delivery costume. The cap on his head was covering half of his face. He said in a cold voice, "Your pizza, ma'am." Tina came and started to pay the guy. I don't know why this guy's behavior felt very off to me. As I went to take the pizza boxes from him, he weirdly touched my hand and brushed off his fingers on my wrist. It happened so quickly and unexpectedly that I couldn't react at that moment. The man looked at me and smirked in a very creepy way. We closed the door, and he left. I didn't speak about it to Tina. We watched a horror movie and ate pizza. Around 12 of that night, we went to sleep. The living room and kitchen area are in the middle of the apartment. Our bedrooms stood facing each other. From my bedroom window, the entire view of the backyard was clearly visible. There was a big tree close to my window. I liked the moonlight in the room, so I often slept without closing the curtains. I was really tired that night, and the next day was a Sunday, so I planned to sleep till late morning. I don't clearly remember how long I slept, but suddenly, a sound woke me up. The sound was like leaves rubbing against each other. I slowly opened my eyes and looked around my room. The moonlight made my room clearly visible even in the dark. I didn't see anyone in the room. I thought it might be birds or wind creating this rusty sound. So I closed my eyes and tried to sleep again. But this time, I heard the sound one more time. The sound was a bit louder this time. I got up on the bed and my eyes accidentally went to the tree outside. I don't know how to explain this, but at that moment, I realized what people mean by fear in real life. There was a dark shadow sitting on the branch of the tree. I was sure it was a man, but due to the bushy leaves, I could only see his 2 wide eyes. I have never seen such a scary, blood-freezing stare. Our eyes met, and I couldn't move anymore. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I felt like the cat got my tongue. Drops of sweat started to appear on my forehead. The eyes kept looking at me without even blinking for a second. Frozen in fear, I kept sitting on my bed like a statue. Suddenly, I heard an owl hooting from that tree and broke free from that state of trance. I screamed in a loud voice, and within a second, Tina came rushing to my room. She opened the door of my room and turned on the light. I was breathing heavily. I heard a sound of a loud thud, like someone jumped from the tree. Being confused with my behavior, Tina asked in a panicked voice, "What is it, Selena? Why did you scream?" I said in a sobbing tone, "Someone was sitting in the tree and watching me sleep." I started to cry. Tina took out the flashlight and opened the window. She then searched the entire tree, but there was no one. She said in a comforting voice, "I think you just had a bad dream, Selena. Look, there's no one there." I said in the same sobbing tone, "No, you don't understand. I saw his eyes. His vicious, creepy eyes were staring at me all the time." Tina comforted me for a while and put me back to sleep. She closed the window and pulled the curtains. I somehow went back to sleep. Tina got back to her room. I felt like she didn't believe me and thought I actually dreamed all of this. But I was really sure that someone was sitting in the tree and watching me sleep. The next morning, when I woke up and went to the living room, I saw Tina shouting at someone over the phone. It took me some time to realize what she was saying. As I listened to her attentively, the hair at the back of my neck stood up in terror. Tina was telling someone, "How can you be so irresponsible? You should have called us once last night. I'm calling the cops. This is utterly terrifying for us." She then disconnected the phone and sat beside me with a terrifying face. I asked her, "What happened, Tina?" She replied in a freaked out voice, "I went to the backyard to check after you said someone broke in last night. I found this cap under the tree." She showed me the cap she picked up from the backyard. It was that same cap the creepy pizza guy wore last night. My face turned pale as I realized he watched me for God knows how long, sitting in that tree. I said, "What the fuck? We should inform the cops about this guy and also call the pizza shop. They can give us details on this guy." Tina pressed my hand and said, "I don't want to scare you, Selena, but I just got some very bizarre news from them. I called the pizza shop to complain about their employee, but what they told me has scared me too." My eyes got stuck in fear. I said in a shaken voice, "Why? What did they say?" Tina replied, "The pizza shop told me that they sent the delivery guy to deliver the pizza at our address, but the guy never reached our place or the shop. Someone knocked him out midway and stole his jacket and cap. The shop thought the guy must have delivered us and left for home, but when he didn't show up in the morning, they called the cops. The cops have found the poor guy lying unconscious in a dingy alley nearby. No one has the minimum idea who was the guy that delivered our pizza last night." I couldn't believe my ears. Tina and I immediately rushed to the police station. We saw the actual delivery guy with a bandage over his head. He was sitting there and telling the cops about what happened to him. I also told the cops how the creepy imposter behaved with me last night. I even told them how he kept watching me in the middle of the night from the tree. The cops are still looking for this man. We have described his face to the cops for identification. I don't know what his problem was, but creepy, fucked up dude who injured an innocent man and scared 2 women to death, may we never meet again.
Oh, wow. Those are some freaky dinky stories there. That was, yeah, pretty good actually. Thank you, IMR. Alright, so my friends, did 5-card spread, the dead spread. And here's what I came up with. Now, the person that we're connecting with tonight is someone who was an overworker, but they were also feeling alienated at the time. Now, looking back on their life, they were very happy. They had it all. 10 of Cups. They had it all. They loved going on vacation. A lesson they would like to have shared was that they had a lot of options, a lot of choices. So many so that they weren't able to accomplish them all in one lifetime.
They wish they had had a little bit more time, but they didn't. One of the things that they wish they had paid more attention to was a possible fire sign. They wish they were more youthful. The message they would like to give you is to celebrate all your rewards, even if they're big or small, alright? Celebrate all the small blessings in life, because this time around you only get one chance just in this lifetime itself. When you pass on and reincarnate, I mean, then you'll get another chance, but then you'll start kind of blank, you know? So celebrate every small detail and enjoy life as it is, okay? And yeah, even the ups and downs, even if at times you feel as if it's hard to want to celebrate, just, you know, you're gonna be okay. Alright? Celebrate. I love you all. Thank you so much for listening to me. My name is Libra Empress. I will see you for next week's Terror and Tarot. Stay safe. Love you. Bye, my beautiful Zodiac family and friends.